Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Aging Games podcast. I have my beautiful, very special friend back today. Anne Bayford is back, and she was talking to us last time about NDEs. She survived 3 NDEs, so you guys need to check out that previous episode. But today we're going to talk about reincarnation. And I'm so happy and excited to have her back because she's like one of my favorite people on Instagram, and I just love her page. And thank you so much for coming back.
Oh, bless you. That's so kind. Thank you so much. Of course, where would I be? I have to be here with you because this is important to get this message out, this information. Yeah, so
Super
important.
important, super important. I think reincarnation is especially something that a lot of people are curious about. And, we hear so many things, and some people say, yeah, it's all BS, it doesn't actually happen. But, there's a lot of proof that reincarnation actually exists. So where
Yeah.
do we begin? Let's dive
Oh, well,
in.
okay. I think like what you said at the beginning, said about the three near deaths, that's really important because a lot of this information I got when I died, you know, each time I died, I went to the other side. I felt I was connected to the universe, source, the oneness, and there was information that was being given to me, and I knew that I had to come back. And it took me a long time to sort of realize that was my job. That was I needed to bring back some of the teachings that I'd learned. And then I had to try and make sense because I originally it was I was really into science and I thought science could prove everything, but as we know, it can't prove everything at all. So I started looking deeper at this, and that's I'll begin there because I was diagnosed with a long life condition, bronchitis, a scarring on the lungs, and initially thought it was asthma, and they was giving me medication for it. It was the wrong medication. I was really ill. I was on steroids, and that caused lots of other complications too. And it got to a stage that I just I knew there was something else. So I picked up a book called Many Lives, Many Masters years
Oh,
ago.
I remember that. That was epic. Still,
Yeah,
still the best book about reincarnation.
oh, it
Yeah.
really is Dr. Brian Wise. And I read the book about Catherine, that he was a psychiatrist, a doctor, and he'd seen many clients and so science-based. And he was saying about, go back to the earliest memory. And I know I'm a trained hypnotherapist, and that came afterwards, all this, you see. And so this patient of his went all the way back to a memory, and some of the information when they was in discussion, they realized actually there wasn't of this lifetime. So Dr. Brian Wise sort of, committed his life to looking at this as a past life regression practitioner. And he was working on this, and I was like, okay. And I remember going to the hospital for my condition, and they were saying that my lungs were badly damaged, that the lower part of my lungs was a lot of scarring. And did I smoke sort of 1,000 cigarettes in a week or whatever, something ridiculous? And I was like, I don't smoke. And then is there a lot of passive aggressive smokers around you, like family members? Like, no. So like, how did I get my condition? And I remember and thinking, this is crazy. In this lifetime, they can't prove why I've got this condition. And that started my journey, a long time ago now, about 15, 20 years ago. And I was just fascinated. I think with the near-death experience, the first one, it really woke me up. There is more to life. So then I started exploring, looking at, energy, quantum fields and quantum physics and stuff. And then reading these books about Dr. Brian Weiss. He ended up coming over to London to do a weekend, sort of workshop, and I sort of like I was intrigued and I sort of pulled towards it. So I went on this workshop, and he pulled me up on stage, and somewhere it's videoed, recorded, whatever. He pulled me up.
Wow.
I know, right? The privilege. And that was the first time I met him. And as he pulled me up on stage, he regressed me, and it came through that it was a past life injury that I'd had from being a chimney sweep back in the Victorian times as a young boy. And afterwards, I was like, well, how was I different gender? I didn't know at the time it could be different genders. I had no idea. So in that past lifetime, I was owned by somebody that sort of would almost like pimp me out to go inside chimney breasts and stuff like that. And all the soot created problems and my lungs were damaged. Anyway, I was still like not sure if this was true or not, but I hadn't given Dr. Brown Wise the information without him sort of moving through it and looking at it and stuff. And I was like, well, how would I create a story? Anyway, so did that weekend. I was still intrigued. And then years later, I then trained to become a hypnotherapist, started working with clients, patients, and looking at what's happened for them in this lifetime. I'm, trained as a counselor as well. And there was some sort of threads going from this lifetime that sort of connected them back to maybe possibly a past lifetime. And I wasn't too sure if I wasn't 100% sure. Anyway, something came up and I saw Dr. Brian Wise. This was 10 years later, was now training out in the Omega Institute in New York. And I was like, I'm going to fly out to New York. So I flew out to New York, went on this for a whole week, met him. I was just another student in a class of 200. And we sort of connected, and I'd have conversations with his wife as well. I went out to dinner a few times with him and his wife. We're talking about the topics, and he was fascinated that how I was a psychic medium, and that he had met me so many years earlier. And we started talking about more and more. Came back, I was into all the past life regression work. And then I realized actually I could take this a step further using my psychic abilities and working with clients. And I learned a lot more. So I learned a lot from being with my own clients that came to see me about their past lives, and about, issues that were coming up for them in their everyday life. And where could we follow it back? Where could we trace it through? And whether it was an ancestral link to family trauma or drama, or was it a past life? But I had to prove it to them as well. So it started making me travel down this road of reincarnation. And we have a lot of, well, I like to say evidence loosely here. But if we look at, there was something called Americans Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent. There was a young guy, actually his 5-year-old child that came on. I was just looking at it now on Instagram. I'm going to send it to you later. And he's great at drumming. And when you listen to him and see that how he plays the drums, for a 5-year-old child, it'd be impossible, I feel, anyway, my own personal feeling, to learn so much because of the actual rhythm that he had, the personality, everything that he had embodied in him, to think that he's not being reincarnated. You look at other children that come through, like Mozart and all the others that are great composers or artists, that they come forward with some like information or knowing that they should be doing something. So with reincarnation, it's a real sort of on this cycle of coming back to life to complete a task. And that's what I found with a lot of my clients I work with, that if there's an underlying really strong feeling that you're here to do something, it's obviously the mission, your soul mission, but also it's something you may not have finished in a past life. And that's what I love about reincarnation. It's that cycle of coming back and completing a task. So yeah, so in a nutshell, which I know I've gone off into one.
Well, first of all, I'm very, very jealous that you got to meet Brian Weiss and go for dinner with him and everything. That must have been such a cool experience. He's amazing.
It was like, you have a bucket list, you hear
Yeah.
that terminology. And I didn't realize, but when I actually met him, I was in awe of him, and then working with him. And then I was really privileged because, in the audience of students, he would literally sometimes say to me, he'd sort of hone in on me, he said, Anne, and he remembered my name, which was brilliant. He said, Anne,
Um,
what do you think? What are you picking up? And we'd have conversations because I said to him that I channeled Einstein and some other individuals on the other side. And so we'd sit together and we'd be in great talks about what I was picking up, what could I feel. And we had some fantastic conversations, yeah, over dinner.
you are even way cooler now than ever before. I mean, that's amazing.
Is that possible?
Is that even possible? So, and in the last podcast that we did together, we talked about the fact that we kind of live in a matrix, that this is like a learning program, right? So, would reincarnation be part of this process? Like, if we look at life as a game, as as a simulation kind of, and then we just come back playing different characters, playing different roles, and trying to get a different learning experience. Is that what the goal is?
Yeah, okay. So let's look at that. I was just talking to a client this morning about this actually on her journey, who she is. So yes, life, if we take life so serious. I was literally doing a meditation before I came on today, and I was listening to some information I had to bring forward. And one of the things I kept on hearing was we take life so seriously, and of course we do. We live in a world where fear is created all the time, so that we're too scared to step outside, the structure or the norm of what we think we should be doing. And that's one of our worst enemies is fear. Now, living in a matrix, meaning it's about our soul coming to this physical vessel, living in it, because it has to experience sensing, seeing, hearing, tasting, touch. And like I think I said in the previous, session that we had together, was that Our souls don't experience those sensory systems unless it's in a physical vessel. So directly our soul becomes conscious of itself and is aware of its lesson, its journey. It's implanted in this physical human being to experience it for itself. So that means, love, hatred, all those emotional feelings that we feel, because our soul has to process this. It's really, really important. So the when we say about the matrix, is that us having our human experience of who we are in any individual lives, what we live. And I was trying to explain this to my client this morning. She did get it, which is great. I said to her, and I always use this with my students. Imagine this crystal is like a giant diamond, and it's our soul. It's our soul inside, and there's many, many facets. There's many sides to this diamond, this crystal, and that's the same thing with our soul. Now, our soul has to have many experiences, and each time it has an experience, it grows through it. And this is the situation with my client this morning, that she disassociates. She doesn't want to think about it. She hides from her issues. And I said, actually, you've got to travel through your emotions. You've got to travel through that experience like a little sailing ship. You've got to travel that storm, because that's when you grow. That's when you extend. That's how you start to experience life. Your soul has to have that experience. It's not about running away from it. So I said to her, in this lifetime, if you see that, imagine this is yourself. It's 360-degree crystal, and it's a bit like your life. So each facet, whoever we are to whoever we want to be. So each facet would mean I am a person to my mother. That's the relationship that we have. There's something between me and my mother. That's something that's got to play out. She's 80 something. She treats me like a 5-year-old. That's absolutely fine, because I'm always going to be her daughter. Now, my relationship, so with my partner, is very different. He sees that loving, vulnerable side, and we have that relationship. We're soulmates. I know that with this one. And then, a relationship with my siblings, or with my children, or with my colleagues. We're meant to come to life. We're meant to have our existence where we have many different experiences. So one will be with my mother, another will be with my father, relationship with my colleague. So there's many sides to us, and we have to go through that. It's a bit like on a chess set, each piece is like, I don't know, white king to black queen, whatever the moves that we make. So that's the matrix, whatever our interaction is with whoever. And our conscious awareness, I know, say for instance now, well, when I met my partner, my original partner of 32 years, he was a narcissist. I didn't know that at the time. I'd come from a dysfunctional family background. My mother was saying, long he doesn't beat you up, he doesn't drink, he doesn't, have, drugs, whatever. So he's the perfect man. And the person I was then, my 19-year-old self, was like, yeah, he's the perfect person for me. I didn't know any different. Now, as I move along and in that toxic relationship, when I look back at it, because I've left it now, 32 years, I was in that relationship. When I look back, I realize I needed to learn something about myself. It's so easy to blame the other person for being the narcissist, but it's about the lessons that we learn in any situation. So in this matrix of my life, of my conscious awareness of who I am at that time, this I needed to know that information. When I look back at it now, I'm like, I understand why I got into that relationship, and I understand who I am now. But I also understand that he was a connection from a past life too. So I know that the connection there was about money, financial independence. I know by leaving him was the hardest thing I felt at the time, because I was scared. And I grew my financial independence. And so now I look back and I go, I understand that. And it's like a big tick list for me that, a past life, it was about money, me dying from ill health. And I knew that I needed to fulfill something. So if we leave in a past life something, a lesson or something we need to learn, either about a relationship or about ourselves, there's a lesson we need to learn, we're going to come in and repeat it. So, now I know I've grown from that. This is the school of life. I know that's one of the things I learned so that I can move forward. And so that's one of the biggest things I found with clients, that when, I have certain clients coming to me, they might have a repeating pattern in this lifetime that keeps coming up for them. But they may have had a repeating pattern in a previous lifetime too, which I find for them. And then we sit and we talk about it. And that was their soul mission, is that something wasn't completed in a past lifetime. They need to come again to repeat that. Their soul needs to continue to grow. So they need to sort of address that. So that's why we have people coming in the next lifetime when they're incarnated. There was something they hadn't completed, or they have a pull to go live in a certain country which they were never born there, but they this yearning because maybe a past life was that something was incompleted in a past life they needed to come back. Or meeting a soulmate, maybe, losing a soulmate in a previous lifetime. When they come in, they need to find that soulmate again. There might be that yearning to find them. So it just fascinates me, this whole experience we have as a soul that's in this human vessel that wants to complete a task, that needs to fulfill that need.
So you mentioned soulmates. Do you believe that we are connecting with the same souls every time we come back?
I love this question. Okay, so my findings, and I've seen quite a number of clients now, my findings from what I've discovered is that if something is uncompleted, and it has to be completed on both sides. This is the other thing. So if something is uncompleted, so say for instance, my ex-partner, in that previous past life existence, I know in my soul pod, which is my family members, that I needed to come in with them again. So in that past lifetime, my son in this lifetime was my brother in that lifetime. I know I was a young boy in that lifetime. My daughter, she was my older sister in that lifetime. My younger sister, sorry, my son was my oldest brother, was my brother. And I know my ex-partner this lifetime, he's quite controlling of money, manipulative. And so it's something he's got control issues, sort of, and that's his own insecurities, of course, what he's grown up with in this lifetime for his childhood, but also from the past lifetime too. So me having a relationship back then with him that he was sort of maybe a father figure role that he played in the past lifetime, there needed something to be completed there between the pair of us. So bringing us back in this lifetime together was really important. So he was would I say soulmate? I'd say he was a karmic relationship. So in this lifetime, it was a karmic relationship between me and him. And we needed to fulfill something. So I needed to learn the lesson that actually I didn't need him financially. I could survive without him. And for him, he needed to learn to let go of me, that he had no control over me, that his job wasn't about having control over somebody, i.e., me, that he had in a past lifetime. Now, with soulmates, I have a new partner now and he's my soulmate. You complement each other. And I know, and we've both sat and spoke about this, he didn't believe in any of this before I met him. But in conversation, he kept understanding he had these strangest dreams that kept on happening. And we were talking about, I said, what did you mean? He said, we lived in a castle together. I said, really? And where we live now, physically, we have a castle near us. Um, and he started sort of saying to me, I think you was my wife in a previous lifetime. Oh, really? I know that because I'm a psychic medium and also I know about soul work. But it wasn't my job to tell him. It was his job to wake up to it so that then he could approach me and we could talk about it. So we believe that we've been together in a connection. So he's my soulmate. We complement each other. There's nothing about, fighting each other or ego in this relationship. We really do complement each other. So that's the soulmate connection. And then, yes, I had a twin flame before, which didn't work because twin flames, as we know, are not really meant to work. They're sort of, trigger each other, mirror reflection of things that need working on. So, yes, I do believe we come in
So these are all really different things. So when we're talking about twin flames, karmic connections, and soulmates, these are all three different kinds of relationships.
Yeah, they are.
How do we know the difference? Like if I'm staring at my soulmate, how do I know that he's my soulmate?
I love that. Soulmates will make you feel at home. It's that strong feeling. You feel comfortable with them. There's something there that you feel that you're meant to be with them. It's sort of what I say is a bit like magnetic, but it's more, I'd say it's feeling at home with them. It feels like, you know, for instance, example of myself, I feel I could take my makeup off in front of him when I first met him, and I wasn't embarrassed, I wasn't shy, or whatever. I could be myself with him, and that's that soulmate connection. You feel so closely connected, and you complement each other. So it's like, say, for instance, a relationship that the other person will do work around the house or in a relationship. It depends where you are in your life, of course. But say, for instance, me again, I don't cook, I don't clean anymore because the work that I'm doing, I'm writing a book and other things I'm doing. He likes to do that. It's a hobby for him. He enjoys when he's not working or when he finishes work, he wants to prepare food for me. Our love language, we've addressed that he wants to show me how much he loves me by preparing food. For me, taking care of me. I don't see it as controlling. I'm able to go into my feminine divine energy with him. Whereas before, when I is in a toxic relationship, I felt that I had to be always in that masculine doing. I can look after myself and, that different type of energy. I felt that my ex-partner was a child, a man child, and I had to take care of him all the time. And I was really annoyed at that. So with a soulmate, you're going to feel really wanting that you are connecting with them, that they're one of those really close friends, that friendship relationship, and it blooms. And sometimes people, when they enter into a relationship with a soulmate, they may not initially feel that this is, romantic or love or anything. It just might be a friendship that grows into that. And that's still that soulmate connection. And we can have soulmate connections through friends as well, like
Yeah,
very
that was going to be my next question. Like, can just a friend or a family member be a soulmate as well, or does it have to be a romantic relationship?
doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. Soulmate connection, believe it or not, this might sound a bit strange, but being an animal communicator, I've seen this with animals.
Yeah.
Soulmates, they feel that certain animals know they have to come in to be with you in this lifetime. They may have walked lifetimes with you before and feel that they must come in to protect you, to be there, to hold your emotions and everything else. So soulmates can be friends, where you feel that you've known them before, you really connect, and you possibly have lived lifetimes before with them. And I've got a number of friends that I know I've lived different lifetimes with them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you see? It
Yeah.
feels like, and you'll feel that you've known them forever. That's
Yeah,
another good connection, is that, like yourself and I, like when we first connected, it was like, I feel like I've known you forever. And
exactly. I totally
yeah,
feel like that.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So we get that. So that's a soulmate connection. You feel at home, you trust. Yeah, you can really open up to the individual, even if it's a romantic relationship and you feel very vulnerable because of you've had maybe a toxic relationship before or whatever. It's that you know that you will be supported, you know that your heart will be held and stuff. So that's soulmates.
That's so beautiful. And it's so sweet that you said that about animals because we've had quite a few dogs, but I have my Stella who's been with us, she's almost 17, she's going on 17. And when I first held that dog, like I just put her in my heart and it was like, oh, like we just melted together, and usually the dogs fall in love with my husband more, but she is my because he feeds them, he sleeps with them and everything. But Stella is my dog, she follows me everywhere. It's just we have this crazy connection and I love all my dogs. I've loved all my dogs, but this is something special, something different.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Soulmates are called in to your life at any given time. So soulmates are they arrive at the right time. They feel as if there's been drawn in, like the universe, God, angels, what do we want to call it,
Yeah.
have brought them in at that time. It's like that soul contract to take you through that next step of your journey. So that's why it feels so strong that it's been created before you even were birthed onto the planet. That person, that animal is going to be there at that given time for you to take the next step in as you move on your journey. So soulmates really cushion life for you. They really hold that space for you. So yeah, very
So we
different.
can have more than one because
Oh,
obviously, can we
yeah.
have more than one romantic soulmate?
Yes, you can. I know I was going to say maybe not at the same time, but I have had clients who had at the same time, and
Really?
oh yes,
Wow,
yeah,
that's a bit dangerous.
yeah. And it's interesting. Yes, you can have more than one soulmate. Well, during your lifetime, of course you can. And this is really important because you go through different stages of yourself. I know if we look at ourselves when we're like 15, 16, 19, 20, 30, 40, 50, however old we are, whatever the age is. We are so different. We change through time, hopefully, because that means you're evolving. If you stay the same, you're not learning anything. You go through pain, you go through heartache, you're growing through it and you're learning and you change. So then you're going to attract in different soulmates at different times. So we could feel really closely connected to someone and think this is forever. But if you're going to change, which ideally our soul wants to change, if the other person changes with you, if you're in a romantic relationship, then yes, you travel down the journey together. But if something changes and their destiny is something else, that's why we've been given free will, then the soulmate connection changes, and then we might have another soulmate that steps in. So there are a number. I mean, I had a client, I work with also with a lot of clients that maybe their husbands or wives have passed over on the other side, and that's a soulmate connection, and they're still engaging in a relationship and also a physical relationship too. So even though they've passed over on the other side,
Physical relationship, how?
yes, oh goodness me, yes.
Do
Well,
tell.
I'm wondering how much I could say,
Tell
so
us everything. We want to know.
I'll let you bleep out the bits you can't
No, no,
say.
no, no bleeping necessary. Just tell us like it is.
I remember the first client I had when this happened. Her husband came in on the other side as a medium I'm working, and he's bringing through his personality so she could then really connect. Oh, that's my husband. And I said, okay. And he's telling me about the new underwear that you bought, and he likes how it feels on you. And she was startled and she said, what do you mean? I said, you've also had a pillow created with an indentation or an imagery of his face on this pillowcase, and you sleep with it. And she said, I do. And I said that he often smiles and laughs at the sound of your device that you use. Right. And then and then I said, well, and then I said to her, and he'd like to work with you during this. So yeah, I'm watching how I'm explaining this.
It's fine, don't worry. It's not, this is not
So
deep.
right, so she literally, when she pleasures herself, shall we say, whether
Yeah.
it's a mechanical device or a hand or whatever, that he's working with her on this. Now, when I first said this to this woman, she was bright red, and I was like, wow, I felt I was intruding. But that was the first time that I realized actually he could feel through her pleasure in herself through her physical body. So he was working with her physical instrument of her physical body. He was sensing everything. So, as I said before, when a soul leaves the physical vessel, so in spirit, they can't feel anything really. They're aware through their loved ones. When their loved one starts thinking of them, then it's like a little dinner bell, like, oh, yep, I can hear him. I'm coming in. I know they're thinking of me. Well, she's literally thinking of him. So he's working through her physical vessel, sensing everything that she's sensing. So her pleasures, everything. And he was really happy for her. Now, this is not the first time. There's quite a number of clients that have come to me. I mean, one client, it was just literally telling her about her husband's coming in and saying, can you eat those barbecue Doritos when you watch soccer? Because I'm sitting next to you in spirit and I can taste them. I don't get to taste anything if you're not eating it because he needs to work with a physical vessel. But there's a lots of sexual experiences, and that's her soulmate, and her soulmate is there, and she still loves him, and he's happy for her to have her engagement in a relationship still. And he said he'll travel with her around on the cruises, and he'll see through her eyes. Now, I've worked with about 200 clients like that already about their husbands or their wives on the other side that's still engaging because they're soulmates. There's a soul connection and they don't want to
Wow.
move on. They love that soulmate. Yeah.
That
Crazy.
is truly incredible.
Oh, good. I can't wait to wrap my book.
Naughty, I like it. And do you think that when we have these soulmates, are we reconnecting in every lifetime, or are there certain lifetimes when we don't get to connect with our soulmates?
Yeah, I mean it's about our conscious awareness of who we are. So depending on our journey of how enlightened we are or aware of who we are as a person, depends on what soulmate is called in. So with the universe, it's like for like energy. So how whatever you're feeling in yourself, however you are in yourself, you're going to attract that soulmate in. So it would be no good attracting the soulmate that I have in my life right now when I was 19, because even we have said we were totally different people. So it would be no good. And so soulmates, certain soulmates will come in at different times on your life journey while you're here. And some soulmates from previous lifetimes won't need to come in because you've learned certain lessons. So when you've learned those lessons, they get ticked off. You don't need to revisit that again. So you may not have that soulmate that you might have had many lifetimes ago. But that whole idea about reincarnation is for us to keep coming in to learning, what our lesson is. And however we may have died or I had this the other day with a client. Her daughter. So this lady in America, I think she was 4 or 5 year old daughter, and she said that she's experiencing some nightmares and there was things that were going on. And we got into this conversation about. She said that she's got this invisible friend and how does she handle it? And I said, you're seen as a visible friend, obviously, because you can't see this person. I said, but this is a grandma. And I gave details of this grandma. And I said, she's coming as a guide to look after your daughter. And I said, your daughter, I can't remember what the job that she wanted to do. I said, your daughter likes, I think it was with animals, actually. I said, your daughter loves animals and talking to all the animals down the street. And I said, in a previous lifetime, your daughter actually worked with animals. There was something there. She looked after horses and then she was a stable hand and she died. And I said, and that's why she's come straight in and she's got all this information. So like I said at the beginning, like, Mozart and other children that come in and they can play the piano and haven't been taught it, whatever, the regular way. It's because something hasn't been completed in a last lifetime. So we can come in and do that. So that means, parents of children, watch out. My son was wanting to be a pilot from a very young age. When I regressed him, he was a fighter pilot and he had gone down in a Spitfire. So in this lifetime, he's a captain for a large commercial company and he's fulfilled that. He continued it. So we can do that. We can come in and sort of complete what we hadn't had in the last lifetime. Yeah, it's crazy.
Do your children believe in reincarnation? Are they open to
They
this?
do now. They're very open to it. I mean, they're 31 and 29, and they're used to me sort of, wandering around London and smelling out plague pits or walking on a pathway where there's been a murder. And I've proved it, I've given them all the evidence and looked up the criminal records and, looked up history in that area. And so I've proved it to them. So yes, they are a believer in it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Crazy.
so I have an interesting question for you. So as we evolve through these different lifetimes, does this mean that we also get like better or easier lives? Like for example, somebody that is born into the slums of India, with one leg and has a brutal life, would this be a soul that is just starting out and hasn't evolved as much, and someone with, a more affluent life, better family life or a better life, would they be more advanced, or is it just, or it doesn't matter, it's just part of the experience? Like for example, if I have a beautiful comfortable life now, maybe my next life I want to be a beggar in India, like that. Is that how it works, or it doesn't work like that?
No, it depends on the individual soul, what lessons you need to learn or what lessons you want to learn. It's not, when I say need to learn, it's not like punishment, like we might call God or whatever it is punishes. That's not how it works. It's about our own soul journey of what it still wants to learn. So, we might have that. I mean, and it's interesting actually, I do have quite a few clients in India and it's different sort of castes and different whatever. And I remember one lady in particular that she came to me and how she was in a very toxic, dysfunctional relationship, what was going on for her. And she said, I must have done something really bad in my previous life. And I said, no, there was something we had to look at her life story, what was going on, but also it was a lesson for her children to see this. So the children, the souls, I said to you about soul contracts that we draw up. So we decide when we're on the other side, sort of what lessons we're going to learn in any lifetime and the roles that we play in it. So, if I even look at my mother, how much she was beaten up by my stepdad. I mean, she literally was stabbed and kicked to the ground. I'd witnessed this.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, my stepdad, he did the same thing to myself, really. And, it was at 15 or 16, literally, it was only me, and this, I don't share this with everyone, but literally, he had my mum up against the wall and had his hand round her neck, and I had to get the bread knife to threaten him, and I had to stab him in the arm. And it's like, that was something that stayed with me for many years. And I learned a lot about myself, how I could stand up to somebody, obviously not using knives, but 15, 16, feeling that my mum was going to be killed. But going back to what you said, someone living a life, as a beggar maybe in a part of the world and not having any money, it's the lessons we learn for that experience about ourselves. So it's not that no one's done anything wrong, or in one lifetime you can have a fantastic lifetime and then the next lifetime it's going to be dreadful. It's not that at all. Because we also have to remember that through your experience, the individual's experience, it's like a ripple effect that you're going to have to other people. So whatever you're learning, your evolution, you evolving is going to affect those around you too. So it doesn't mean that, it's really important that you do the work, obviously, and to understand yourself more and more. And those who are consciously aware of themselves in this lifetime, it's not seeking it outside of ourselves, it's actually to find that peace internally. When you find that peace internally, that's your evolution. So if you did live in a difficult lifetime, the next lifetime, as in, if you were then very wealthy, sort of materialistic wealth, we're talking about Ferraris or whatever it is, and then in the next lifetime, you could actually feel richer in that lifetime where you've got nothing and you're living on the streets. Because it's to do with your own consciousness, to do with your own enlightenment, your own journey. So no, it's not, you can't you can't compare them sort of thing. It's just what your soul needs to learn in whatever lifetime it is.
That
And
makes a lot of sense. Can you choose not to reincarnate and say, I'm done?
yeah, it's interesting you're saying this. Um, I have worked, say for instance, and this is slightly different, but I've worked with quite a few people who've on the verge of suicide, so as a counsellor, and I've worked with those on the other side who have committed suicide. And lessons I've learned from listening to their story is that really it's not your choice, in a sense of the human choice. It's about the soul journey when the has gone through everything it needs to learn. Um, my findings so far is that, I mean, I've been told I'm not going to reincarnate. I'll be part of the ascended masters. I'll go off and I'll be there. So when people have got questions, when they meditate, I'll be like a guide sort of thing.
Wow.
And that's fine. Makes sense to me.
Will you give me your number when you're up there so we can
Oh
still
yeah,
communicate?
a direct line. You could just
Yes,
ring me.
please.
But normally it's like, no, you don't. I know we have free will to make our own mistakes and to learn. That's really important. And that's something I've been told, our free will. And the minute we want to reach out for guidance and say, for instance, we believe in angels and ask, or we believe in God, it's given to us, but we have to, like a parent, we have to get on with it. Like God, say God is like a parent or angels like a parent or universe, whatever. They let us get on with what we need to. That's our free will until we reach out and ask. But so far, my findings is that no, you can't sort of say, I'm done now. I don't want to come back again. Because that is showing them actually, source energy, that actually you're not really done because there is still much more to learn. And if you knew that, you wouldn't be saying it in the first place because it means maybe you don't want to come back. And maybe is it through suffering or whatever it is. But for you to say that, there may be a reason why you don't want to come back. And then that is a reason why you'll come back, is to learn.
That makes sense. So what happens with time? Okay, right now we're in 2025, right? So if I were to die in 2080 or whenever, right? Hopefully a long time from now. But then when I come back, do I always come back in the future? Because like one of our biggest concern right now is that the world is going to hell, right? With all this AI, all the like it's just we're not heading in the right direction. This has probably happened before many times, but anyway, where the world is going right now, I would not want to be here 100 years from now. So when I die, do I come back into a more advanced world than what we have today? Or can I go backwards, go back to the 1800s, for example?
Oh my God, I love this. First of all, we're in 2026, my love. I don't know what
Oh
happened
shit,
in
it's
2025.
2026.
You've already gone back in time.
I was gonna say like 2020, but it's like, oh my God, it's 26. It's insane.
I keep saying 2027. I'm like, what's going
Oh
on?
really? You're in the future. I'm still in the past.
Okay, so let's have a look at this. There's this thing called, let's say, for instance, a couple of things here. There's this thing called like deja vu, where
Mhm.
people sort of feel that, I've been there before, but say, for instance, in a new building, I had this myself where I felt I've stepped into this building before, but I'm like, when I find out and I do the history, and I was like, this building's only been here like 5 years, so why do I feel I've been here before? Because literally my future self is there. So I teach my students there is no such thing as linear time, past, present, and future. And then that's the same what Anne, you talk about past lives. It's all on layers. It's all layers of time. So it's running at the same time. So it's a bit like Parallel Lives, Sliding Doors, like that movie. We take that with our awareness, we take that option, or that awareness, we take that option. We have choices, and that's like with when you see a psychic, they can only give you roughly the information from who you are right now, your understanding of yourself. But if tomorrow or in the next half an hour that you learn something new, already your destiny could be changing. It's your awareness of who you are and the outcome changes. So, in the quantum fields of our reality of who we think we are, it's like sometimes when someone has a light bulb moment, they go, oh my God, that makes sense. Now I understand why I went out with that person. Or that makes sense that I didn't know that about whatever it is. But the minute you have an awareness of something, your future is already beginning to shift slightly. So time shifts, it travels slightly differently, changes. The gear, like in a car, changes. So you've got to look at this as it's more as when your soul sort of being reincarnated, it's like what lifetime does it need to be in reincarnated back into? What was the lesson? Where was there that you maybe haven't revisited? So in a way, it's like it's a bit like I don't know if this is going to explain it, how I can explain it. So it's a bit like I said about the diamond. There's many facets to it, many sides to it. But there's also when we look at the facet, different sides. There's if you look inside the diamond, it looks very different when you change the angles and direction. That's time. That's what time's like. So it's our awareness. So we look at the diamond, there's many sides to it. But if we went in on one side, it looks different. If we go in on another side, it looks very different. And that's what time is about. It's our perception of time. It's a bit like jokingly, you said 2020. Well, you said 2025 and we're joking, said, oh, I said 2025. A bit like when we sit there and say, I'm 57 now, I look back and I go, where did the time go? Because my mind can remember certain things going back. And if I look at photographs, like say, for instance, when I was a child, I look at them and go, oh my God, I remember that as if it's yesterday. So time can bend. Time is really illusional. So the matrix we live in, we've been told that that's the past, this is the present, and this is the future, as we move forward into the future. So as a soul reincarnating again, you can come back at any time you want, in any dimension.
Can you live different lifetimes at the same time?
Oh, right, okay. I love this. Oh my God. There used to be, what was there, a program called, is it, oh, I can't remember, it's called now Quantum Fields, I can't remember, but a guy used to jump around from different lifetimes and stuff. So with my students, I teach them to sort of be able to astral travel and you move in and out of different timelines. So you can move in and out of different timelines. Even if you think about this, even like what I was just saying to you, if say for instance we've been in a relationship in the past, we can go back in our minds, which is the greatest projector, go back in our minds and remember that relationship. So you're living in a way, you're experiencing, because if we think what does living actually mean, it means you're experiencing life. So living is experiencing life. That's the meaning of it. So in our minds, when we are thinking of, a different stage of our life, we are bringing it up, we're experiencing it. So we are reliving it, the experience. If we say, and we might be so, I could be reliving when I was 19 years old, I'm experiencing to my knowledge, to my memory of what it was like. Now, it might be distorted, who knows? But it's because of who I am right now. I might see it slightly different. But I can also be sitting here talking to you at the same time or get on with my daily life here. Some people I've got that with clients where, say, either through depression or astral traveling, they can travel to different parts of the quantum fields and feel that they're living somewhere else. Our imagination, we can do that as well. Because remember, we can trick our conscious mind into what we believe is true. There's that of our understanding of who we are. If we are saying, can we physically, like as in there's two of me or two of you live at the same time? No.
Mhm.
But energetically, yes. As in this person in spirit, who is the husband to this wife, he's still living through her experiences. He's connecting to her. So he's having an existence here, in a sense, through her memory, the experiences through the photographs, that connection. So as a medium, I can bring him through, but also he can have another existence somewhere else.
Wow.
So I hope I've done that justice. I don't know if I have or not, but hopefully I have.
Mind is blown, absolutely blown. Oh, we always run out of time so quickly with you, Anne. I need to have you on for like a 3 hour episode so we can, but we'll have you back again. We have so many different topics to cover. I mean, I just love chatting with you and you're absolutely fascinating. And can you please tell our listeners where they can find you, how they can work with you, where they can find more? Tell us also about your new book that you'll be writing.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to write this book on my life and what's happened and cold cases I'm working on, two murders at the moment as well, and working
Wow.
with the police. So yes, so I'm trying to put all that together. I'm writing at the moment. I'm also writing on Substack at the moment. So it's Anne Bayford on Substack. You can reach me. Also Anne Bayford on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. You can go to my website, www.annebayford.co.uk or .com, something like that. Just put Anne Bayford in, Google me.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a community I've created so people can come together. But I'm creating some new programs at the moment, new containers to help people as they move forward to have more of an understanding of themselves. That's the most important
It's
thing.
awesome. I love that. And you also work with people one-on-one, right? They can book.
Yes, all online, one-on-one. I don't see a lot of people face to face anymore. I just wouldn't be able to fit them in. So it's just that, yes, it's all online, one-to-one. And classes, of course, during the week, I run classes to learn more about these topics, to understand yourself from a psychic perspective, so that it can help you in your everyday life too. Yes.
You're amazing.
Oh,
Thank
I
you so much for being here. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this video with someone you love. And we'll
oh,
see you guys in the next one.
thank you.